A lot of buyers come into Midtown looking for the condo that seems like the best deal. But the cheaper unit can sometimes carry the bigger risk once you look behind the listing. That's why today I'm breaking down the homes I'd be very careful buying in Midtown Atlanta right now, and how to spot the red flags before you move forward. I've been in this market for over 28 years, and the best looking deal isn't always the safest one. Let's dive in. Old condos. If you walk into one of the older condo buildings along Peachtree or Piedmont Avenue, you'll know how easy it is to fall in love with it. The location is great, the unit looks nice, and the price might even seem lower than you'd expect. But I wouldn't rush into making an offer just yet. A lot of Midtown's condo buildings were built in the late 1990s, and some of the converted ones go back even further. Many of them have been well maintained, but after around 20 or 30 years, every building starts facing bigger repairs. Elevators wear out, plumbing gets older, roofs, parking decks, and HVAC systems all have a lifespan. So sooner or later, those projects come up. What I'd want to know is whether the building has been planned ahead for those repairs. That's why I always look at the reserve fund. Think of it as the building's savings account. Part of everyone's HOA payment should be going into that fund. So when it's time to replace a roof or update an elevator, the money's already there. But if those reserves are low, owners can end up paying a special assessment instead, and that can turn into a bill for thousands of dollars with very little notice. Before you get attached to a unit, ask for the HOA reserve study and the current association budget. Those documents tell you what's expected over the next several years, how much life is left in the building's major systems, and whether the association has been setting aside enough money to cover those projects. I also like looking for patterns instead of focusing on one number. Has the building had several special assessments over the last few years? Have the HOA fees barely changed even though the building keeps getting older? Low HOA dues might sound like a bonus, but they can also mean expensive repairs have been pushed off and eventually someone has to pay for them. While you're doing your homework, ask when the roof was replaced, whether the elevators have been modernized, and if any major plumbing, facade, or parking deck work is already planned. If those projects are coming soon, they can have a big impact on what it costs to own that condo over the next few years. I'd also pay attention to how the HOA responds when you ask for information. If they're slow to send documents or don't have a recent reserve study available, I'd want to understand why. Well-managed associations usually have those records ready because buyers ask for them all the time. None of this means you should avoid older buildings. Some of Midtown's best values are in those communities, and many of them are managed very well. The point is to look past the listing price because the real cost of owning a condo depends just as much on the building's financial health as it does on the unit itself. But looking at the listing price alone isn't enough. The monthly HOA fee can have just as much impact on what you end up paying. If you're thinking about buying and want help understanding the market and comparing your options, reach out to me. That's exactly how I've worked with buyers across in-town Atlanta for almost 30 years, by helping them look beyond the listing and make informed decisions before they buy. My contact information is in the description below. Now let's move on. High HOA. The listing price isn't always the number that decides whether a Midtown condo fits your budget. The monthly HOA fee can have just as much impact, so I'd want to know that number before getting too attached to a place. In Midtown, HOA fees can range from a few $100s to well over $1,000 a month, depending on the building. This is a good way to think about it. A more modest building might run you a few $100s a month, while a full amenity high-rise can push well past that. So on a mid-range Midtown condo, you might be looking at somewhere in the $400s to $800s every month before you even add your mortgage, property taxes, or your own insurance. That's why I always compare the full monthly payment instead of just the purchase price. Two condos can sell for the same amount, but if one has a monthly HOA in the low 500s and the other is closer to $1,200, the monthly cost can be very different. But even if the monthly payment works, don't assume the listing price is where the deal will end. We'll get into that next. Now, That fee is paying for things you probably won't think about every day. It helps maintain the building itself, including the exterior, elevators, common areas, systems, and landscaping. It also covers shared amenities like the pool, fitness center, concierge service, and the building's master insurance policy. But it doesn't cover everything. You'll still pay for things like your property taxes, your personal condo insurance, repairs inside your unit, and sometimes even parking. I'd also pay attention to what you're getting for that monthly fee. A higher HOA isn't always a bad thing if the building is well maintained and professionally managed. The goal isn't to find the lowest fee. It's to understand what the fee is paying for and whether it makes sense for the way you plan to live. Once I know the monthly payment works, I'd still ask for the association's budget and the recent board meeting minutes. They can give you a better picture of how the building is being managed before you move in. Now, the next thing to look at can make a big difference if your plans change in a few years. Slow resale. Most buyers spend all their time thinking about buying, but they don't spend enough time thinking about how easy it'll be to sell later. Right now, Midtown condos are taking longer to sell than they were a year ago. Most are going under contract in about 2 months or more. That's a longer stretch than just a year ago. Buyers have more time to compare their options, so sellers have to work harder to get their attention. You can see that in the inventory too. In some Midtown zip codes, new condos are coming onto the market at a much faster pace than they're actually selling. That creates more competition for sellers, which is why buyers have more room to negotiate. Before you buy, you need to keep in mind your plans could change over the next 2 or 3 years. Maybe it's a new job, your family grows, or you decide another neighborhood is a better fit. A slower market doesn't mean you won't sell your condo, but finding the right buyer may take longer than you expected. And if it does, the carrying costs keep adding up. You're still making your mortgage payment and paying the HOA every month. You also have property taxes, insurance, and your other ownership costs. A few extra months on the market can make a big difference in what that move ends up costing you. But there's another number I'd pay just as much attention to. Overpriced units. The asking price and what a Midtown condo is worth today aren't always the same thing. Some sellers are still pricing their condos like the market was a few years ago, when homes sold almost as soon as they hit the market. Buyers have more choices now, so they're comparing buildings, taking more time, and negotiating before they commit. That's why the list price is often just the opening number. Most Midtown condos are selling below the original asking price. In many buildings, sellers are accepting around 97% of what they listed for, and that can add up to thousands of dollars on a condo in the mid to high 300s. If you're buying, don't assume the asking price is where the deal will end. Instead, compare recent sales, not active listings. Start with units that have the same floor plan in the same building, then look at similar buildings nearby. Those closed sales show what buyers have agreed to pay in today's market, so they're a much better guide when you're deciding what to offer. But price isn't the only thing that can affect your resale. In a little bit, I'll show you how the people who own the other units can shape your options. Now, it's also worth paying attention to listings that have been sitting longer. Sometimes the seller bought years ago and has a price in mind that doesn't line up with today's market. That doesn't always mean the condo is overpriced forever, but it can mean there's room to negotiate if you're working from the right numbers. Now let's look at another detail that can change the value of a condo more than people expect. And it isn't inside the unit. No parking. Here's something that happens very often. You finally find a condo you like, the price works, the building looks good, and then you find out it only comes with 1 parking space or none at all. Midtown makes it easy to get around without driving every day, and that's one of the reasons people choose to live here. Even so, parking still affects day-to-day life, and it can also influence how easy the condo is to sell later. Before making an offer, find out exactly what comes with the unit. Some parking spaces are deeded, so you own them just like the condo itself. Others stay with the unit but aren't owned separately. Some are assigned by the HOA, and a few older buildings only offer leased parking, where you're paying every month for a space you never own. Don't assume a 2-bedroom condo always comes with 2 parking spaces either. While 1 space per bedroom is usually the standard in Midtown, there are buildings where that doesn't apply, especially some older or smaller communities. So always confirm what's actually included before you close. Now, take a minute to ask about guest parking too. Check if the building has EV chargers or plans to add them, and find out if parking comes with another monthly fee. Those details don't always make it into the listing, but they can make one building a much better fit than another. A lower asking price can reflect limited parking or extra parking costs. If you know that going in, you can decide if the trade-off makes sense for you instead of finding out after you've already fallen in love with the condo. But parking isn't the only thing that depends on the building. The people who own the other units can shape your experience too, and that's another detail worth checking before you buy. Investor heavy. You can find 2 condos that look almost identical, same price, same size, and similar finishes. One moves toward closing with no issues, but the other runs into financing problems before the deal comes together. Sometimes the difference has nothing to do with the condo itself. It's actually the building. Some Midtown buildings have more people living in homes they own. Others have a larger number of investor-owned units that are rented out. That ownership mix can affect financing, and it can also affect your options if you decide to sell later. Some lenders have limits on how many investor-owned units a building can have. If the building goes over that limit, buyers may not qualify for the loan they plan to use. That means fewer people can buy your condo, which can make it harder to sell when your turn comes. The leasing rules deserve just as much attention. Most Midtown condo buildings don't allow short-term rentals, and many also limit how many units can be rented at one time. If that limit has already been reached and you need to move for work or another reason, you may have to wait before you're allowed to rent out your condo. You'll probably notice differences in the community too. Buildings with more owner-occupants often have residents who stay longer and take a more active role in the property. Buildings with more rentals usually have higher turnover, so the experience can be different. Neither one is better, but it's something you'll be living with every day. Before you move forward, ask about the owner-occupancy ratio, the rental cap, and whether owners are waiting for a rental permit. Then check with your lender to make sure the building qualifies for the financing you're planning to get. Those details rarely show up in the listing, but they can affect your choices long after closing. Now, new construction can solve some of the concerns we've talked about, but it also brings a few new ones. New construction. Sometimes new construction sounds like the safer choice. In some ways it is. Everything is new, the finishes are current, and you don't have to think about replacing older building systems anytime soon. But before you decide it's the better buy, there are still a few things to check. A new building doesn't have much history yet, and that's one of the biggest differences. The HOA budget is based on projections because the building hasn't been operating very long. The reserve fund is just getting started too. If the monthly dues were set low to help sell the project, they may go up once the real costs of running the building become clear. The same thing applies to builder incentives. Closing cost credits, rate buydowns, and design upgrades can all save you money up front, but compare the full monthly payment before making a decision. A resale condo without those incentives can still cost less over the years you own it, so it's worth comparing both options side by side. You'll also want to know what's happening around the building, not just inside it. Midtown still has new residential towers underway and more student housing already in the ground and still in the pipeline. There's also a major public park moving forward. Those projects can make the neighborhood even stronger over time, but they can also bring construction, changing views, and more activity around your building while everything is being built. Before you sign, read the HOA documents and have someone review the builder's contract. New construction contracts often use different timelines, deposit terms, and warranty language than a resale purchase. Knowing those details ahead of time gives you a much better idea of what you're agreeing to. A new condo can be a great investment, but brand new isn't a substitute for doing your homework. Whether the building opened this year or a few decades ago, taking the time to check the details before you buy can save you from expensive surprises later. The more you know before you buy, the fewer surprises you'll have after you close. That's why I always encourage buyers to look past the listing and understand what they're really buying. If you're thinking about buying a condo in Midtown and want another set of eyes on it, send me the listing at hello@vcgrealty.com today. I'll help you look at the building, the numbers, and the details that don't always show up in the listing before you make a decision. If this video helped you look past the listing, watch this next one I've linked right here. I break down how today's Atlanta market is giving buyers more negotiating power and what that means before you make an offer. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.